Oh, it's been a long time coming. You know what? We talk about people walking away from boxing and how hard it is for people to make that walk away. How hard did you find it hanging the gloves up?
I had no problem, Trisha, no problem hanging the gloves up. You see, what it is, you see, when I went into boxing, I know that boxing was a very short career and boxing ain't going to last forever. So while I went into boxing, while I was boxing, I enjoyed it. For the 10 years I was in it for, I enjoyed every moment of it. But I know at one stage, it's a very short career and it's going to end very quickly. So while I was in it, I just enjoyed it while it lasted. And I know while I enjoyed it while I was in it, and while it ended. So I never came back to it. So I had promoters asking me at the time, of when I had my 100th fight, because once I had my 100th fight and my wife was pregnant with my lad, she was about to drop. I said, I'll never come back. And the promoter says to me, oh, you will come back. It's an easy job for you. You know how to move and not get it and do the rounds. And that's it. So you will be back. And you know what, Trish? My lad's 16 next month. I never went back. I finished and that was it. And I've never been back since. Trish, I work on the railway with guys. I have friends on the railway I work with and they say, oh, don't you ever miss the boxing? Wouldn't you get back in there if you had the chance? I say, you know what? No. I wouldn't go back in there if I had the chance. I enjoyed it while I was in it. Boxing is finished now. And I don't miss it.
Did you get what you wanted out of the sport?
Trish, I went into boxing to become a champion, so no, I didn't get out what I wanted in the sport. I wanted to sort of maybe win a British title, at least, something like that. I didn't realise it was going to go the way it was. But at the same time, Trish, I went into fights and I thought I'd done enough to win. But I didn't get the decisions. So, no, I didn't get what I wanted to get out of the sport because I wanted to win at least a Midland or a British champion at least.
Sure.
And I thought I had the ability to do that sort of thing, by at least winning a British title or a Midland title.
Going way back, your parents were part of the Windrush generation, weren't they?
That's right, they were. And you know what? It's been so hard for me with what went on with them. I mean, in the end, they ended up going back. And that was so hard for me.
So they came over and you were born over here?
I was born here. So they came over here in the 60s. My mum and dad, I have 3 brothers, 2 sisters, and we were all born here. So they came over here together. They had us and decided in the 80s that they wanted to go back. So come 1987, they went back. And I was only 15 and a half. It was very, very hard. And I struggled in life and I struggled to have any money. I struggled to eat.
So who did you live with?
So what I done, I stayed with our auntie for about a month or 2. And that was very, very hard also. They were very strict and I had it very, very hard there. So then what happened was I lived with a brother for a couple of years. And he looked after me. And then he said, you'll have to get your own place now. So after a couple of years, I went and got my own place, and that was very, very hard also. And I struggled, I really did, with having money and that kind of thing. It just seemed really hard to get a job, being so young. And, everything was just so hard, Trish. I struggled to cope. And
what was the first job you got?
I was working in a shoe factory, earning £35 a week, and it was just hard to make ends meet, hard to eat. I just struggled to cope. The thing is, Tris, you know what? Listen, I'm proud of myself because I in my life I've struggled with not having any money, and I've never made any excuses, done any drugs, stole, or anything like that. I've always tried to live the right way and try to look after myself, and I've really struggled. And it's just been so hard for me, and it was just so hard to have a meal to eat, pay bills and that kind of thing. I just find it so hard to cope, And I've been, I've always on my own, and really hard times.
So what was your first boxing memory? Was going to the gym your first boxing memory, or did you know about the sport before you went to the gym?
I knew about the sport before I went to the gym, but I didn't do it for the money side of it. I actually went to boxing for self-defense, amateur club, Worley Amateur Boxing Club, where
You'd already done some kickboxing and stuff.
I'd done some kickboxing and stuff, and I went to Worley Amateur Boxing Club to get good with my hands. How did you know about the kickboxing? I don't remember saying anything to you about that.
I do my homework.
Okay, yeah, I did. I had about 5 kickboxing matches, but weren't very good with my hands. So I wanted to learn to be good at punching. To be quite honest, it wasn't really what I was going to do. I just went to the boxing to get good with my hands, and I thought I'd go back to the kickboxing. But I went to the boxing gym, and not only did I get good at boxing, I lost a lot of weight as well. So I thought to myself, I'll be pretty good at this. I can, enjoy this and I'll stick with this. And from about 12 stone, I got down to about 9 stone 10. I got really quick, and I learned the art to hit and not be hit. And actually, Trish, the guy who taught me now is an Olympic coach, and he was Anthony Joshua's coach, a guy called Bob Dylan. And he taught me to box, and I actually won an ABA novice championship title. But then at the same time, I thought, you know what? Maybe I should have stayed with the amateurs. I decided to go pro, and I thought to myself, I'm pretty good. I can maybe win a Midland title, British title. But it never went like that.
Well, how many amateur fights do you have?
About 40.
You said that you hadn't done any drugs and you hadn't drunk?
Never had a drink, never done any drugs. But you know what, Trish, I come from my mum and dad weren't my dad, because my dad did drink, but my mum was a Christian. So I didn't do anything like that. I mean, don't get me wrong, I have tried a bit of drink and it tastes bitter, so it's not something...
You just don't like it?
Yeah, I don't like it. Yeah. It's a required taste, isn't it? So anything what tastes bad or is no good for you, I weren't interested, you know what I mean? So that's why I never done it really, you know what I mean? It's not something that I've wanted to do,
So did you ever go down a bad path in life, or did you have the opportunity to?
You know what,
because it looks like you've always been scrapping for an honest living.
You know what, Trish, I'll be honest with you, I've never done nothing wrong, and I've never got involved with anybody bad. I've always stayed on the... It's a funny thing, that, really, because I could have, you know what I mean? People have hard times, and I don't know if it's an excuse they use, but I never went down the bad path. I've always lived an honest life. I've always struggled back then. But I didn't do anything like to say take drugs or drink or smoke weed or anything like that. I've always lived an honest life. Struggle, but live an honest life. I think that's just an excuse sometimes when people say I had it hard, so young, I used the wrong path. I mean, I never, so, and I didn't really feel tempted to.
Yeah.
I struggle, and it made me a bit depressed and that kind of thing, but I never went down the wrong way, wrong roads, lived the wrong, steal from the shops, steal off anyone, get involved in fighting. The only fighting that I got involved with was the boxing. So, yeah.
How long did you box for as an amateur?
I done 5 seasons.
Okay.
Yeah, so 5 years. And then I thought, I tried the pros, and I thought, I can be pretty good at this. And I was pretty good at it. But I went on to shows, not realising I was the opponent I weren't meant to win. And I always tried to win, and I'd done enough to win, but didn't get the decisions.
So when you set off turning pro, how did you go about choosing who was going to train you, who was going to manage you, who was going to promote you, and that kind of stuff?
To be quite honest, at my amateur gym, there was a fella. He come from up north, and he was training at my amateur gym, and he said he was going down to a pro gym, Nobby Knobs in Birmingham, and I asked him if I could come with him to see what it was like, and I tested it out, and I thought, I'll just stay here. I didn't look and think who's the best. See, I never had no help. I just went into it on my own. I didn't go and look and think who's the best trainer can I go with. I thought Oh, I went down to Nobby's straight away and thought I'll stay there and I'll go with him. Not thinking it was a gym for late replacement fighters. It weren't a gym where you're gonna go and you're gonna win. You're gonna have a fight and you might do enough, but you're not gonna win because Nobby's gym wasn't for that. Nobby's
At
gym.
what point did you realise?
After about 7, 8 fights, I realised, I thought, what's going on here? I'm doing enough, but I'm not getting decisions here. What's going on? And you hear then that, Nobby's gym isn't a gym where you win. You are just like a, you're an opponent. Nobby's like, last replacement guys. I didn't realise till after, and then I thought to myself, oh. And then I had people like Brian Coleman, Peter Buckley, say, oh, don't be killing yourself. Just do what you got to do and get paid and fight next week. No point getting battered and bruised up. You're not going to get the decisions. You're not the promoter's boy. You're not going to win. You don't go like that. I didn't realise. I thought you went into a fight and you tried to win and you win. I weren't a big puncher, but I was a good boxer. So I thought I could go into these fights and I could do enough and win.
So you fought Alan Bosworth on your debut?
I fought Alan Bosworth on my debut. And in my mind, I thought I'd done enough to win. That's what I thought. And I looked back and watched the fight. And I still think I've done enough to win. Some will probably say I lost. Like one or two say, so I don't know. Did I do enough to win or didn't I? I think I lost in half a point. They don't do that anymore.
No,
but I think I lost on half a point in that fight.
Yeah, you lost and you lost a 6-rounder. So you started off with 6-rounders as well.
I started off on 6-rounders against Alan Bosworth, and I thought I watched that because he uploaded it himself. It was him what uploaded, and I spoke with him on the comments. But I thought I'd done enough, but I don't know. And it's still my opinion. When I watch it, I thought I'd done enough to win.
About half a dozen fights later, you had your first win. You beat Craig Stanley. Do you remember that?
That was such an hard fight, I do remember it very, very well.
You stopped him in the third.
I fought him, the first time I fought him, I struggled in that fight. He beat the hell out of me. And Nobby put me straight back in him. Back in with him. I was really worried, I thought to myself, why has Nobby put me back in with him? I was so nervous. I nearly had an heart attack. He put me back in to fight him. And I won because I was scared. I was so nervous going back into that fight. And I thought, why have you put me back with him?
Yeah, so you lost a 4-rounder to him and then stopped him. Yeah,
he beat the hell out of me. He really did. He beat me up really bad. I had a broken hand. I had to have stitches over my eyelid. And I was really scared. And Nobby was frightening. And he said, he put me back in to fight him. You can beat him. I thought, I can't beat him. So I won on fear. So
did you develop like a different mentality from having ambition and wanting to win titles? Did you sort of just accept that you were there to lose?
Of course I did, but that wasn't my mentality from the start. I always I thought, when I went into professional boxing, I can hit and not be hit and get a decision. But it didn't go like that in the end. I just learned Peter Buckley and Brian Coleman. Do you remember them very well?
Yeah, of course.
Peter and Brian. They taught me to be like them. It was them what said to me to fight that way, and you can go in next week and fight. Go in the week after and fight without getting marked up. Bob and weave, jab, move around, throw a few shots, and you'll have a longer career. So it was them what got me to get into it that way.
Are you pleased that they spoke to you like that and that they told you about that?
You know what?
Because that curved your ambition massively, didn't it?
It did, because if it weren't for that, I probably would have knocked it on the head.
Right, okay.
100%, because I had a few fights where I got beaten up and tried to win. And if it weren't for them, I don't think I would have had the long career I had.
Yeah, sure.
I'd done 10 years, I think. 10 years, 10 years as a pro.
100 fights. Yeah.
And 100 fights. Now, if it wasn't for them, maybe I'd have about 9 or 10, not having a word with them and learning a few tricks off them. I probably would have had a 9, 10 fights, been really disappointed and knocked it on the head. I don't think I would have gone with anyone else. I thought that would have been it. I would have been done and I would have called it a day. And that would have been it. End of my career.
Quite funny, when you look at some of the... Obviously, you were super active throughout your career. When you look at 99, 98, you'd beaten Mark Smith at the end of '97, then you beat Gavin McGill, you beat Mark Smith again, and then you beat Adam Spelling. So you've been fighting very regularly, and those fights came in a clutch of about 4 or 5 months. They do say when you're meant to be, when you're in the blue corner and you're supposed to be losing, when you win a few, the phone stops ringing. Well, when you beat Adam Spelling, which was your fourth win in 6 fights, I think, you didn't fight again for 6 or 7 months. Is that what happened?
No.
You won and people stopped phoning
I'll
up?
tell you what happened also. I brought my hand on a couple of occasions. So then I stopped. When I start throwing my shots, I start taking it easy. Because I had a few breakages on my hands. And for some reason, I don't know what it was, my hands. Every time I throw a shot, I had a few I think I brought this one 4 or 5 times. I brought this hand. And also, Chris, on this hand, I've had operations on it. I was a gymnast when I was a child, and I had a scale throw fracture.
Okay.
Which means when I was throwing left hooks, it got weak, and I had a couple of breaks on this hand also. So I was out of boxing for a few months, not because the phone stopped ringing, because I had broken hands. I'd done my hands in, and I had to wait for my hands to go back right before I could go back into it again. And that's why I was out of boxing for a while.
You mentioned Brian Coleman. You actually fought Brian.
We actually fought Brian, but that weren't for us to beat one another up. That was just to
fill a slot on a show.
And we got in together, and he didn't want, me and Brian were quite good friends. Brian didn't want to hit me, so Brian said, make it look good and throw a few shots back. Come on now. Throw a few shots back. So I threw a few shots back. And he threw a few shots back. Well, as it goes, I think at the time he was on a winning streak himself. But we didn't go into hurt one another. We just went in there to try to make it look good. Wish it was hard to do. Because Brian, and he was, we were speaking about this the other day. Like, he said, if it was someone else from the gym who I didn't like, I probably would have tried and knock him out. But I like you so much, I found it hard to hit you. And that's what he said to me. And so we just tried to make it look good. And he got the decision, by the way, on that. But he and it upset him because he thought that we might have got a draw.
Oh yeah, I suppose that's what would have been a best case scenario.
Yeah. And
then after you fought Brian, you fought Ernie Smith, who was another of the great journeymen of the time.
Who did I fight?
Ernie Smith.
Now Ernie Smith, I thought I beat Ernie Smith, but again,
it was a draw.
It was a draw on a Pat Cardone show. I thought I won that, and I did try to win.
Did you ever box for Pat, or did you think about going with Pat?
What made you say that? I did try to go with Pat. I don't know. Yeah, I went with Pat. I'll tell you what happened. I went with Pat Cowdell, and he said to me, "Come back next week and do a bit more training, and we'll see about getting you your license and stuff." I don't remember if you know a fella called Graham McGrath. He said he was a good friend of Pat Cowdell's, and he said, don't go with Pat Cowdell, go with Nobby. Them were the only 2 promoters at the time.
Right.
I said, Gray, why are you telling me not to go with Pat? You're telling me to go with Nobby, but you're with Pat and you have a lot of fights with Pat. He says, me and Pat are good friends. That's why I went with Pat. You know what? If you go with Pat, you get a lot of wins, but you're not going to get paid well. If you go with Nobby, the fight will be quite hard, but you'll get paid very well. And not only that, he'll teach you not to get hits. He'll put you with really hard guys, but he'll teach you to avoid the shots. So I listened to what he said, and I went to Nobby's, and that's why I went to Nobby's. And if it weren't for him, I would have stayed with Pat. Because I was told, you'll get wins. The fights will be a lot easier, and you'll get a lot of wins. But if you go with Nobby, the fights will be really hard, but you'll get paid well.
Were you close with Nobby?
Yeah, I got become close with him, become really good friends. I speak with him now, see how he is, And
how is he doing? Because he's not involved.
He's not involved in boxing anymore. Now he used to live with his uncle. His uncle passed away. He's not in the house he was in. He lives in a 1-bedroom flat, but he's doing fine. We speak.
Does he watch the boxing at all?
He still watches the boxing, but he's not involved anymore, and he doesn't.
Does he miss it?
Nothing to do with it. He's glad he's out of it due to
politics
and that kind of thing, and revenue keep bothering you.
Less said about that, the better.
Yeah.
Tell me about Thomas McDonough, who you fought.
Oh,
against.
listen, the Thomas McDonough. I wish I didn't fight because, you see, on paper he was a very big puncher. Now when we fought one another, oh my God, Nobby says, Arv, I should never have put you in with him. It was miles too big for you. Because let's not forget, let's not forget this. I was only like a lightweight, light welterweight originally, and I was going in with a light middle. A light middle I was going in. Oh my God, them punches kill me. He beat the hell out of me. And I seem to have problems with big guys. And the fact that he was a lot bigger than me, every punch he hit me with, it really hurt. It really, really hurt. I found when I fought at my own weight, which was lightweight, light welterweight, I handled the guys very easily. If I went up to anybody sort of light middle heavy than that, it was a big problem for me. Every time he hit me, I felt sick. I really did. It really hurt. And
when you say you handled the guys easily, but you're still losing fights, what do you mean? When you say handle it easy, you came out and you didn't get hurt.
I come out and I could fight them, but it didn't hurt me. It didn't do anything. You know what I mean? It was all right, and I weren't going to get stopped. Actually, I've had fights at light welterweight where I was put down. I probably could have won, and the referee had stopped it, and it really upset me. I had a fight in about my 95 fight, I think it was. I fought a fella down Bristol, and the referee stopped the fight, and it really upset me because I actually thought I could have won that. I can't remember what his name was, but the referee shouldn't have stopped the fight. Trish, it's online. I can't remember what the fella's name was, and the referee shouldn't have stopped the fight anyway. He should have let me carry on. I could have beat that guy. I'm sure I could have, and I wish I would have had a rematch with him, but it never happened.
Well, a couple of fights after Thomas McDonough, you had an easy one when you fought future world champ Junior Witter. What was Junior like then? He was 14-0 with two draws at the time.
Junior was very awkward because when Junior threw a shot at you don't know where it was coming from. You know what I mean? He was probably one of the awkwardest guys I fought. If when he threw an uppercut or something, you couldn't see it coming as an uppercut. It come out a funny angle. Every shot he threw, it landed on me, but they come out funny angles.
Right.
But I know that he knocked a lot of people out, didn't he?
Yeah.
So
sure.
I was on form. I thought, he ain't gonna knock me out. I'm not gonna be scared of him. I'm gonna try and fight him back. And I've done all right actually. You know what I mean? I thought he might have knocked me out, but he never. But
what was his power like at the time?
Oh, he got a lot of power.
Yeah.
He got a lot of power, and he threw shots at funny angles. So I thought at the time, if I just try to steam me at him, he's gonna knock me out. So what I'll try to do, I'll play him at his own game, and I'll counter him. And he's a very good counter puncher. So while he was waiting for me to counter me, I was waiting for him to counter him. And I thought, if I can do the rounds like that, I should be all right. And I did.
Yeah.
Waiting for him to counter me, and while he was trying to counter me, I was waiting for him. So I sort of...
So it wasn't loads of action, but you were sort of trying to just feint to keep him away a little bit.
To keep him away, you know what I mean? Do a feint, and he'll feint and play him at his own game. Because if I try to rush in at him, he's going to knock me out. Because he fought a lot of good guys, and they just tried to take him out, and ended up taking them out with one punch, didn't he?
So a couple of years ago, you messaged me to say, I think I'd done an interview with Tunde Ajayi, and you messaged me to say you could fight, and you boxed him in 2001, and you lost a 6-rounder down at the Elephant and Castle. So people know Tunde is like the fast mouth trainer, but not many people know him as a fighter. So what was he like?
They don't know. No, he was a very good boxer, I thought, and I thought that. I said to him, I spoke to him on social media. I said, Tunde, you was a very good fighter. What happened? But he never told me. He just said, Arv, don't let the cat out of the bag, he says. But I don't know what happened and why he didn't continue his career.
But you thought he was talented?
I thought he was very, very talented and could have gone on and probably win numerous of titles. I mean, I fought him. Don't forget, he only had like 4 or 5 fights. And I thought he was very, very good. And I fought a lot of fighters. Fighting him, I thought he was very good. And he boxed very, very well against me. There was no chance of him knocking me out, by the way. But boxing ability was fantastic.
Yeah. And you were used as a measuring stick, obviously, for guys coming through. One of the guys coming through was Meager, who was 7-0 at the time. Lee went on to have a really good career.
He did have a good career, didn't he?
What was he like at the time?
But I fought him, and just was like the others. I was quite impressed that he'd done so well in the end, winning the British title, because it was like many of the others where I'd just go in and just go through the rounds and get to the end of the round. It weren't like a situation where I thought, oh, this guy is fantastic and he'll do well. I just use it as another fight to just go the distance and get paid.
People get pre-fight nerves, right? Was it the same for you, who'd done it so many times, or was it just a question? Was it almost like sticking on a suit, grabbing a briefcase, and going to the office?
Sticking on a suit, grabbing a briefcase, and going to the office, and that's what it was most of the time. But that wasn't what I intended to do.
Sure.
I intended to be at least a British champion. I'm sure I thought I had ability. And I thought I'd get better with time. I didn't realise I was going to end up being the way I was, in the sense of moving around and, like you said, becoming a journeyman.
Yeah.
Grabbing the briefcase, putting on the shoes, and that kind of thing. And because that's exactly the way you say it, that's exactly how it become. And where
but was it a job you were passionate about? Did you enjoy it? Did you look forward to going to work, as it were?
I look forward to doing it in the end, but
you'd accepted that.
Once I accepted it, I am a bit upset in the sense, Trish, that I didn't win a lot more than I did. But after trying to win loads of fights and not winning many, there's times and times I could have probably had won, and I didn't try to win in the end.
Was there a standout decision that went against you that outraged you? And of the losses, how many do you think could have should have been draws or wins?
There's quite a few. I'm sure I could have had there should at least have been about not far off 20 wins in some of them fights. I tried so hard in my career to win, and even at the start, look how long it took me to get my first win. Yeah. And even if that had gone the distance, I would have lost, I think, against Craig Digger Stanley, who'd done very well as an amateur, and I think he thought I was that crap, and because I beat him, I better retire, because if I can't beat him, then I'm not going to do good. But that weren't the case. Gavin McGill, I think he was the same. I beat him, and he must have thought, I better retire.
It's not for me.
He's not for me. He's crap, But that's not the case, is it really, Tris? That's not the case. But I think one or two fighters thought, if I can't beat him, I better retire.
There's a lot of good level fighters here, obviously, through your record. Through 2001, 2002, there's Gwyn Whale, there's Lee McAllister, there's Adnan Amar, there's Barry Morrison, Chaz Simons, Gary Woolcombe, Mark Alexander, Robert Lloyd Taylor, Scott Haywood. It's a pretty nasty run of fighters. It going on to Nadeem Sadiq as well, Colin McNeil, who was making his debut. They all went on to have decent pro careers. All of those guys.
One of my toughest fights, but again, he was too big. That's
which one?
Colin
McNeil.
Colin McNeil from Scotland.
Yeah, that's right. Up at the Braehead Arena.
Oh, it nearly stopped me. I didn't. He must have put me there, and I didn't realise. I was looking at an action image picture, and it looks like I'm on the ropes, and he's put me down. I didn't realise he put me down. I was about to be stopped in that, but I got warmed. When he was hitting me, I got used to the shots because I got warm.
Who was the best that you faced? Was that Junior?
Junior was the slickest fighter, but my hardest fight, I think, was Colin McNeil, but that also because he was like a light middle, and I weren't a light middle. And
what was the biggest card that you boxed on?
Would I say probably Audley Harrison?
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, there was quite a few I fought on, but I can't think.
Do you know who Audley fought in the main event? Which show that was?
One from London, but I remember me fighting. I know who I fought.
Go on.
He fought
Ashley Theophane.
Ashley Theophane.
Yeah.
Well, I had a good fight against him.
Okay.
And
down at the Alexandra Palace.
Is that Alexandra Palace? That's
yeah.
right. Audley was top of the bill on that card,
okay.
And I fought Ashley Theophane on that bill. But I thought that was a close fight. Maybe I was wrong, but at the time I thought it was close. But he won that fight. Yeah. I can't remember if it was a 4-3, but there was nothing in it.
Yeah, it was a 4-rounder.
Yeah.
At what point did you think with your career that you were going to wrap it up? At what point did you start to, and did you start to think maybe at 90 fights I'm going to call it a day at 100? Is that how it was, and then you just started counting it down?
You know what? I could have gone on to, after that 100, if I had over 100 fights, I would have tried my best to go to 200 fights. And you know what, Tris, what am I going to get out of it? Keep fighting. I'm just going to get the hell beat out of me, and I'm not going to win any. I'm just going to be a journeyman. I'm going to get battered, and they're just going to use me as an opponent. There's no point. When I got to 95, you know what? I thought, 100.
You went out on a draw though. Did that nearly get you to carry on?
That done my head in, because I thought I'd won.
Right, okay.
And he was a bigger guy as well.
Was it? Yeah.
And I'd fought him before, but I wasn't bothered about winning. I let him win. And he said to me after the fight, "Gee, this was a lot harder than the first fight, because in the first fight I didn't try to win."
Right, okay. You tried to win that last one.
That last trot fight, I tried to win. And I got a draw. And I put him down. He was bigger than me. I put him down, and he clapped his sleep, but I put him down. And he was bigger than me. Once I had that 100 fight, that was enough for me. And if I had gone past 100, if I had fought 101 trees, then I would have tried to go to 200. So I thought to myself, I might as well finish on the 100.
Yeah, sure.
If I have another one, then I'm going to have another 100. And that's what I would have done.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So,
And all the while you were working for Network Rail, right? Yeah. All the way through.
All the way through. Still working for him now.
So what were you doing when you were boxing as a pro? What were you doing for them?
The same thing as I'm doing now.
Which is?
Track maintenance.
Okay.
And I'm still doing that now. And they've always been very good, actually. Never stopped me from going away to fight or whatever. They always allow me to fight.
So how did a normal day look then? In a week where you had to train and work?
The thing is, you see, Tris, because the fights come regularly, sometimes I didn't train. I done a lot of road running. And Nobby always says, I've just do a road run. Don't worry about training, because you're fighting fit. And because I was fighting fit and I was able to fight one a week, which I did do for a while. At some stage I fought one a week. I was allowed to fight every 7 days, so I fought every Friday for a while. And Nobby said, do a bit of running, don't worry, because I might call on you. And he could call on you at any time. So I'd always been fighting fit to go and fight. I never had any problem with the job I'd done, because Network Rail, there was always the people I worked for, they was always fine. If I had to fight, I was able to go and fight. So there was never a problem with that. Trish, I don't know. I enjoyed doing the boxing, but it weren't really about the money, because I had a good job, and all the way through my career, I was working for them.
What was your lowest purse?
My first fight against Alan Bosworth.
What did you make?
£320.
And what was the biggest one? The Theophane one.
I had some good purses.
Which fight? Without telling me the sum.
Okay.
Who was it against? Do you remember?
Colin McNeil. I got paid a lot in Scottish money, and Junior Witter.
Okay.
I got paid a lot fighting him as well.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, I got half in check and half in cash. But it was probably the only check I've ever had, that one and maybe another, because I always got paid in cash. Yeah,
sure. And then obviously you got to ask a journeyman, like, what's the latest notice you've had for a fight? And can you remember getting some calls where you've been somewhere you've been exceptionally busy, and then the calls come and you've found yourself in the car with all your kit?
You know what, Trish, I was a traffic warden for a while. I don't know if you knew that. I did for Birmingham Council. I was a contractor. I worked for a private company who were contracted to Birmingham Council, and I used to book cars. And one afternoon, I went down to Nobby's gym in the afternoon. He says, "Have you got your kit on you off?" I said, "Yeah, why?" He said, "There's a fight for you." I said, "Okay." So it was like about training session to train, and I just had a notice to go and fight. So I went with him down to London to fight, and I fought. Yeah, and I lost 1 point. Oh dear. Yeah, so that's about the shortest notice I've ever had. To go to a gym to train, and when you get in the gym to train, he's telling me there's a fight.
Yeah,
I've gone and fought straight away. As soon as the training session's finished, he's took me down to London in his car.
When you guys go on the road and you're in the car and you're going to basically go and take some losses, what's the mood like in the car? Is it, are you all good friends?
We're all good friends and we're not worried about it, and we just have a laugh and a joke. Plenty of time, me, Peter, Brian Coleman went to places to fight in the car, and we're just friends. We have a pack of crisps and have a laugh and have a joke. And they just got me into it like them, because at first I was nervous as hell, but I got into the mood the way they did, and I thought if they can be like that, I can be like that. And we end up having laughs and jokes, eating food, having a good time.
Was there a place where you got booed out of the house, where people absolutely hated you because you were fighting a young prospect, a hometown fighter, that kind of stuff?
A lot of times, and at first it scared the hell out of me, but I got used to it. And
because I've spoken to Johnny Greaves about this, and Johnny
never bothered me in the end.
Johnny said that there were some really hostile crowds that he fought.
I've had a hostile crowd, been called a few bad names, bad black names, but you take no notice of that, you know what I mean? And it didn't bother me. First time it happened, Trish, it scared the hell out of me, but I learned to accept it and learn how to defend myself and not worry about it, halfway through my career. But the first time it happened to me, it was quite frightening. The boos and that kind of thing, and,
intimidation.
The intimidation, calling your names. I've actually been in the ring and shaked a bit, shaked in my boots.
More from the crowd than from the fighter.
More from the crowd than the fighter. But then afterward, it become easy. You know what I mean? It become easy. It come really easy. And then I had people like Brian Coleman around me, Peter Buckley, who was doing it week in, week out, and listening to them, and they helped my career by listening to them and how to get through fights and what to do and
accept different environments. And
yeah. And don't worry about it off, and then next week you get another one.
It's a crazy existence.
And sometimes, you could fight on a small hall show, or you could fight on a
big arena show.
And most of the time, those are all big arena shows. And if it went quiet, there was a small hall show. Yeah.
With regards to the big arenas, were there any places where you really wanted to box and never ended up?
I'll tell you what I would have liked to do. Talking of big arenas, I would have liked to have fought out the country, but that never happened for me. But it happened to Peter a lot, where he'd fought in other countries. I really wanted to fight in another country, but I never done that. You know what I mean?
So I've written this book called Damage, and it's out at the minute. And
I didn't know. Well, I'll look for that, and I'll buy that.
It's about long-term damage through boxing.
Yeah.
And when I was a guest on a show on a podcast in America recently, someone was talking to me about English journeyman over there, because they don't really understand how it works.
No, they don't.
And they said the person was adamant, like, if you lose, I want to say they said 5, but possibly 10 fights in a row, you should have your license taken away.
Yeah, 100%.
What's your take on that? I mean, I was looking at Peter's last run of fights. I don't think he won many in his last 100.
You know what? I disagree with that. A Yankee even made a YouTube channel, the worst fighters. They put Peter Buckley on there, and that's an example. They don't understand how it works. In their country, if you lost a few, they class you as rubbish, don't they?
Yeah, sure.
It don't work like that. Yeah, I'd like to know how it works there, because I've always believed if it wasn't for people like the likes of me and Peter, Brian Coleman, Ernie Loveridge, Ernie Smith, and the list goes on, Christian Lake, and the list goes on. I can't remember everyone. If it wasn't for people like the likes of us, then there wouldn't be people with perfect records. I mean, a lot of these people like Ernie Smith and Peter Buckley and people like the likes of them, they fight guys and they could have beat these guys, but they know their job. And this is why they lose. Every so often you have to win one, because you do get the board on your back, and they'll call. I was called in once. They says, the British Boxing Board of Control says, we just call you in to have a look at you, we know how the system works. We just want to look at you and see that you're not bashed up, That's what they said to me. And that was it. I've been called in once by the British Boxing Board. They called me in, and that's what they said to me. We just wanted to have a look at you to make sure that you don't look bashed up and you look fine, and we know how it goes and you look fine. And that was it. And then they sent me on my way.
So if you were treating the game like a job and going to these work assignments, it's no wonder then really that when you walked away, you didn't miss the buzz because you didn't have the same buzz anymore.
No.
You didn't have the same nervous energy.
Did not have the same nervous energy what I had when I was trying to win. When I realised that this was a job to lose, and especially when it come to the end, there was no worry. When it came to the end, there was nothing I was happy with that, because like I say, Trish, the buzz went when I was no longer trying to win. And I was told, don't bother, it's a waste of time trying to win because I'm not going to get... The only thing is, Trish, I would say, is that I wish I'd won a lot more than I had.
Let me ask you this, okay? When a decision goes against a journeyman and it goes in favour of the hometown person, is it subconscious bias? Is it corruption? Or is it judges who don't know how to do their job?
I don't think it's judges what don't know how to... I don't think it's down to the judges knowing how to do their job. They know to do their job. I think it's all down to giving the fighter the own win. Whether
it's purely political.
Yeah, political. Whether it's a referee judging, because as you know, Tris, if it's a 4 freeze, 6 freeze, 8 freeze, 10 freeze, they don't use, in this country, they don't use judges, do they? It's the referee. And the reason why it's the referee and not judges, because it's saving on money. So most of the rounds in this country is done by a ref. And also, if the referee doesn't give the promoter the win, then they won't use that referee again.
Did you see the Campbell Hatton fight over the weekend?
I haven't watched it yet.
No.
I haven't watched it yet.
It's one of the things. So we could obviously talk about the decision, but what I wanted to talk about really is bringing in imports to build the record of homegrown prospects, because in many ways Campbell might have been better served fighting people doing what you did.
Yeah, rather than taking on someone who was, my opinion, Trees, you know what, he fought on a big show, and I haven't seen the fight yet, but I will watch the fight, Trees. But he's fought someone on a big show. Wouldn't it have been better for him to have a few wins on smaller shows and fight people like the likes of myself, Brian, Peter Buckley, rather than fight on a big bill?
Or even
some
just
guy,
as a floater on a big bill.
Or a floater on a big bill. Trish, I don't see who he fought, but was the guy a journeyman, or was he a guy with an undefeated record?
No, he wasn't. But he was brought over from Mexico, and I think had some ambition. But the thing is, as well, it's difficult when you're a name and you're bringing a lot to the table. Everyone's going to train hard to fight you, aren't they?
That's right.
There's a lot at stake.
There's a lot at stake, but the thing is,
we've seen it sometimes with whether it's Chris Eubank's son or Nigel Benn's son. These guys have a target on their back, don't they?
I mean, the fellow they brought over from Mexico, then he probably wouldn't have been that bothered if he lost because he was a journeyman.
Well, that was one of the things that people were amazed at how sportingly he took it. Yeah, as well.
Yeah. When you've got a losing record and you beat someone, and even if you beat them convincingly, it doesn't matter to you. You're not bothered because you're not there to win anyway. So
I'm really interested in your mindset, Arv, in terms of, so talk me through, when you're an experienced veteran, 80 fights deep, and the bell goes and you're across the ring from an opponent, your thing isn't to step to them and go and seek and destroy. What's going through your mind? I'm going to move to the left and see where he goes.
Yeah, move to the left, see where he goes, move around and see how good he is. Don't become to beat him up anymore. It becomes
just when he throws, cover up.
Yeah,
and then throw something back.
Throw something back, have a move, jab and move. Tris, I've even had a fight where I was told to lose.
Did you?
Yeah.
Did you not? But not because you were told to.
Because I was told, could you? Because he's going to lose his license. Want me to tell you who he was? Or
go on.
Mark Smith.
Really?
I fought him 3 times and beat him easily 2 times, and I was called in. Do me a favour, my fighter is going to have his license taken off him. Could you make him win? I said, yeah, no problem. Because I'm a journeyman, it doesn't matter. Someone said to me, I could never have done that. But in my career, what I'm doing, doesn't matter, does it? Because I'm going to fight next week. I'm going to lose anyway.
And that just means he gets his license.
Yeah, so if I can help someone, shouldn't I help him to make him carry on boxing so he can make money rather than lose his license? If I can help a fighter to keep his license, I will do that, because I weren't a person who was getting wins. If that was the case, Trish, I would never have done that.
It's a tough one though, because it's a dangerous game. Because if anyone's trying to take your license away, it could be for your own good.
Mm-hmm.
People might be looking out for him, trying to protect him, thinking we're going to have to take his license.
You know what it was, Trish?
But I see your perspective as well.
Yeah, what it was actually, no, Mark, and I speak with him from time to time. I don't think he lives in this country now, but he was quite a smart guy. Actually, he was a banker, he was, and he was a lovely guy. We got on ever so well. So I done it because I liked him and I wanted to help him. Sure. I know what you're saying. Like, if I didn't know him, I probably wouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
But the fact that he was my friend and I was asked, and he actually paid me after us. I said, nah, it's all right. But he said, no, have it. You know what I mean? I just done it to help him so he could continue, because he enjoyed boxing. And the fact that, Trish, I know what you're saying. They're trying to help him by taking it off him. But I tried to help him, so I know he liked boxing, and he wanted to continue boxing. And if they took it off him, then he wouldn't have been able to box anymore. Well, I knew him personally from boxing him, and he was a nice guy. So I wanted to help him to keep his license rather than it being taken off him.
You mentioned depression at the start. Is that something that you've had issues with? Obviously, it's been a big thing in boxing, and obviously to journeyman to an extent as well. I've spoken to Johnny Greaves about it. Obviously, we talked about Ernie Smith. Obviously, him and Billy both took their own lives. Is that something that you've struggled with? And do you think your identity as a journeyman has affected your self-confidence?
I'll tell you what, I have felt like that, but not because of the boxing.
Are you sure, though? Not even subconsciously?
I don't think it's because of the boxing. Why? That's all that depression. I've had depression a lot and before, but not to do with my boxing career.
A lot of yours was rooted with your family, wasn't it? And going away.
Yeah.
Because you had it was traumatic for you when your parents were
very traumatic, Trish. Very, very traumatic. And you know what, Trish? I'm here. Look at this. I got an house now. I got 2 beautiful kids and a wife, but it still affects me. And sometimes I sit here and I think to myself, there was 8 of us in a house, in a terraced house, there was 8 of us, we lived together. And I had strict parents. And, they went to Jamaica and we've all split up. But it still affects me a bit. I still think about it. But I'm happy here. I'm happy here with 2 kids and a wife, and I ain't got any problem, but it still affects me from time to time. I think about it.
Did you go back to see them, or have they come back to see you?
They came back here and they stayed with my sister for a month. And I visited them once. And once only, and I think it's bothered them, and thought, well, why have I only come once? And what it is, you see, Trish, I thought, well, I know you lot came here for a month, but I can't stop living my life. So I went and visited them once, and I never saw them again. And then they went back.
What did they do for work?
My dad was here. He was a maintenance man here for 25 years, and my mum was just a cleaner. And 1987, they decided they had enough and they wanted to go back. So they just went back, and...
Did they want you to go with them?
I could have gone.
You could have. Yeah.
But then, Trish, I was born here, and what was the point? You know what I mean? I had a younger brother than me, he went with my sister, but they're back here now, they struggled. They said it was so hard. And then another thing, Trish, when they went there, they had the hurricane, I don't remember, if you remember it then, Hurricane Gilbert, about 1988, which tore their roof off the house, and they had struggled and had a hard time themselves. So it weren't easy for them. While it weren't easy for me, it was hard for them as well. Well, Trish, it's just one of them things, what can I say? I mean, they struggled for years, and my mum's passed away now anyway. My dad's still alive, but my mum's passed away. But he's out there on his own, and his pension goes out there, so he's all right.
Are you still in touch?
Not very much, really. You know what I mean? From time to time, I'll pick up the phone and see if he's all right, and that's it. But not very often. It's very hard. When it's been a while now. You know what I mean? And time sort of, sad to say, it died.
Puts the distance in there, doesn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. What I just do, Tris, I just got my kids and I just try to be the best dad I can be to I got a boy and a girl.
Right.
And I just try to be the best dad I can be to both of them.
Sometimes the best lessons in terms of being a parent, you learn from your parents, not from what they did right, but from what they did wrong.
Spot on. That's what I learned from what they've done wrong.
Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment because you know what you were. Because I think probably kids know what they want and know what they need, and if you don't get it, then you know what you want to give your kids because you know what you wanted and what you needed.
And maybe that's why you know, Trish, I think I give him everything, and maybe the mother-in-law sometimes will think, how come you buy him this and how come you buy him that? It's from not having much. You know what I mean? From not having much. If they ask me for whatever they want, my daughter, if she asks me for whatever anything she wants, or my son asks me whatever he wants, I'll buy them whatever they want. And I never say no.
Within reason.
But no, Trish is a hockey player, roller. He's a roller hockey player.
Okay,
Look.
yeah.
And he wanted some boots, and the boots were £500, and I never hesitated. I just bought the boots.
Yeah, wow.
And that's because I know that my parents would have never done nothing like that.
No, sure.
And so, and same with my daughter, she does dancing.
You're going to have to make a comeback with prices
and,
like that.
You know what I mean? It's true, if she asks me for anything, she has what she wants. And even if my wife was to ask me for anything, I'll get her what she wants. And it's about the hard upbringing of life, having nothing. What's made me that way, you know?
When you talk about your auntie and living with her, you said it was very hard. Do you mean physically it was very hard? Were they disciplined?
They were very, very disciplined. You weren't allowed to go out and they were very strict in saying, you know, you got to be in early. And that was hard for me. Because I have had friends. The bringing up of my life with my parents was that way. So I found it hard doing it there, and on times I wouldn't take no notice. I was kicked out, really.
Right.
So I went and stayed with my brother for a bit till I was old enough to get my own place and stay on my own. So I lived with my parents, and they were very strict, and they didn't allow me to go out anywhere, which was very strange. I found it very strange they allowed me to stay here because I had a passport to go with them.
Yeah.
And I said to them, I was born here and I don't want to go out there. It's funny that they listen to me when I explain myself, when I actually justified myself to my mum and dad. I can't believe they actually changed their mind because they had a 10-year passport for me to go with them. I justified myself to them and I explained to them why I didn't think it was a good idea to go. And they listened and said, oh, you can stay with your auntie and your uncle, which I'd done, but they were very strict. And again, I weren't really allowed to go out, but I didn't listen to them and I was going out, so I got kicked out and I ended up staying with my brother. When I was old enough to get a flat, I ended up moving into a flat while I stayed with him. But it's very hard, Trish, when you have friends what can go out and stay out and you can't. And you can't, and you want to... It's not a lot. Again, I weren't a bad guy. And I just wanted to mingle with my friends and socialise and have a chat and that kind of thing. I didn't want to get up to any wrongdoings or anything, you know. I just wanted to be able to see my friends and enjoy myself.
Going back to the boxing, you know, obviously we've talked about Nobby and the gym. It was known in boxing as Losers Limited, wasn't it?
Losers Limited.
What did you guys think of that? Because it's not exactly flattering, but obviously I suppose...
Not very flattering, but I suppose that's what it was. Trish, did you ever watch that have you watched that documentary on it?
I have, yeah.
You have?
Yeah.
What did you think? Because
well, it kind of does what it says on the tin.
I mean, Trish, I come from a gym.
The thing is, I suppose all the gyms you see are champs,
they're all champs,
legends, and all the rest of it. And then you've got Losers Limited.
Losers Limited with gym, which was a gym, but there were some great fighters in that gym. You had Paul Wesley, Peter Buckley, Brian Coleman, and they weren't
Mark
bad.
Ramsey,
Mark Ramsey, Paul Denton.
Good amateurs as well.
Good amateurs and achieve a lot. I mean, nobody wanted to fight them in the amateurs, you know.
Yeah.
Paul Denton, Mark Ramsey, they were class acts, you know, and didn't fulfil their potential as professionals, did they? There was nowhere. Well, not because they weren't good, but because of management.
Sure.
Going with Nobby, you're not going to have a career of a champion going with Nobby, are you? And them guys, they won everything as amateurs, won medals.
Yeah, sure.
And nobody wanted to. I remember in the amateurs, everyone was scared to fight them, and then they ended up with Nobby.
Yeah.
No matter how good you are, you're not going to win with Nobby.
And it's a weird thing that when you say it, almost so accepting. But do you think Nobby wouldn't mind you saying that, would he?
No, because he knows what it was all about.
Yeah.
If you got a big show in London and people have sold a lot of tickets, there's always someone who's pulled out.
You still got to get them out.
Yeah. If someone's pulled out, who are you going to get to fit in? Nobby was there. You know what I mean? Who else was you going to get? There ain't no way you were going to get a last-minute replacement for an hour or so. But you can guarantee Nobby would. We'd get someone, wouldn't he? Who else? Who other person in the whole country would be able to find someone in 10, 15 minutes to fit in? I remember myself, this happening. I'm good friends with him, a fella called John Joel Finnegan.
Yeah.
We're fantastic friends. And he says, he had a bit of problem with brain damage, He said, I'll never forget what you done for me. I sold a lot of tickets. I didn't know what the hell I was going to do. I sold all these tickets and the fella pulled out. And you stepped in. And the thing is, he was miles heavier than me. I was only coming at 10.9 at the time. And something like a 12.7. And I went in and I fought him over I think it was only 4 2-minute rounds. But I got paid well for it, and I couldn't believe it. I was so chuffed. And even today, he'll thank me. He said, I'll never forget what you done for me in that fight. I sold so many tickets. I sold a lot of tickets. How many tickets did you sell? I said, I must have sold about over $1,000 worth of tickets. That's what he said to me.
And that's one thing, that's one of the burdens that...
It was only a small old show,
Sure. But that's one of the burdens you've never been saddled with, having to sell tickets.
No, never had to sell tickets. So, you take the good with the bad after when I realised what was going on. I never had to sell tickets. And I've always thought, Trish, having a fight is nerve-wracking. Having to sell tickets as well, that's another nerve-wracking moment.
Pressure, isn't it?
It's a lot of pressure, more pressure on you. And nerve-wracking having to sell tickets. Say if you don't sell tickets, I'm told these days, if you can't sell tickets, they won't use you for a show. They'll just won't use you.
Yeah,
They'll
I believe that's...
put you on the road and do it that way. But you take the good with the bad. You can't win everything, can you? Because I don't think I would have been a good ticket seller, and I think it was nice to be able to Nobby to ring me up, I got a fight for you. And he told you what you were getting paid. He told you exactly what he was getting paid. I think that was miles better with no pressure. Go into fight and you know what you're going to get.
Was your nickname Fox?
I'll tell you where the Fox Mittoo come from. The reason why you... my brother, I was talking to him about this. He was killing himself laughing. When I was younger, I used to suck my tongue. And my older brother, he called me Fox. Because he says you got a face like a fox when you suck your tongue.
And that was
so my older brother, he gave me that name. And we were talking about it the other day. And that's why I call myself Fox, because I'll never forget that name. Because he called it me most of my life, Fox.
And that was it, wow.
And that's why I use it on my Twitter name, Fox.
Tell me about some of the other journeymen that you've met over the years, whether you've fought them or not. So someone like a Johnny Greaves, do you know Johnny well? And
you know what? I think I'd finished my career when Johnny was fighting, didn't I? But we speak on Twitter sometime and on Facebook. He's a gentleman, you know what I mean? He was what he done was good, and he got to his 100.
Yeah.
There's no point in carry on. What's the point? Getting bashed, he could have carried, and I'm sure he could have.
I think, but he was offered a few quid for 101st one.
It's a dangerous sport. You've done what you've achieved. Why carry on to 200 fights? What are you going to get out of it? 200 fights and be punchy. And you don't know what can happen.
No, that's it. You just don't know.
You don't know, do you?
What's going to happen down the line?
You didn't achieve what you wanted. I never achieved what I wanted to achieve. Just achieve and get to 100. Not many people get to 100. Achieve getting to 100 and leave it at that. I got to 100. The boxing board gave me a few awards, and be happy with that. I'm not going to get nothing more. I'm not going to win no British titles or nothing. You know, it's what I wanted to achieve. But when I got into the sport, I realised I'm not going to achieve that. I'm going to achieve... All I'm going to do, I'm going to fight some up-and-comer, and he's going to get a win, and I'm going to get nothing. I got to my 100, and then I achieved an award with a centurion. I'm saying, you had 100 fights. And I was happy with that.
Yeah, sure.
I was happy with that.
You know, you say about being punchy and stuff. That's what my book is in essence about. And so we call it, obviously in the trade, punchy and being punch drunk and stuff. And that's something that can happen down the line years after you retire from boxing. In American football and stuff, they call it CTE, which is chronic traumatic encephalopathy. And it's the same thing that American footballers and boxers have been suffering with over the years. Do you have any worries about, you know, you said in this chat, you know, you've taken a few beatings and all the rest of it. Do you have a worry about some of this stuff coming back to haunt you later on, whether it's short-term memory loss or you know, touched upon depression or
hopefully
kind of stuff?
Trish, I hope nothing like that happens because I didn't take too many beatings. I mean, most of the fights I slipped a lot of punches and I danced around and I didn't take too many shots. So hopefully that won't happen. So I'm not too worried, but you never know. Anything can happen. Anything can happen, but right now I'm sound. I got all my, you know, I'm all there. You know what I mean? I'm quick. I got no problem at the minute. Hopefully that won't happen. But I did take a couple of fights I shouldn't have fought, where I fought bigger guys and they stopped me.
Yeah. I
got stopped in a few fights where they should have stopped it because the guys was too big. I got stopped on a couple of cuts, and I got stopped. Also got stopped when I shouldn't have been stopped. But the fights when I got stopped, I think I should have been stopped because they were big guys, and when they hit me, I was all over the place. So I think I should have been stopped in them fights.
Did you turn down any fights that you remember? There must have been a couple where you just said either I'm ill or I'm busy or that you just didn't want.
I turned down one fight at the start of my career because I fought him as an amateur and he beat me up.
Who was that?
A guy called Wednesbury, a guy from Wednesbury. I can't remember his name.
Okay.
But Trish, if it was halfway down in my career, I would have fought him. But I was offered a fight at the beginning of my professional career, and he beat me quite convincingly as an amateur. And I was offered a fight, and I said no. But if it was offered me half.
Yeah, because your agenda would have been different.
It would have been different.
Doing the rounds rather than getting a win.
And then actually as well, Trish, fighting good guys, I learned a lot how to look after myself by people throwing punches at me and avoid the punches. At the start of my career, it was about trying to win. Halfway down my career, I learned how to defend myself better, if you know what I mean.
So I've got a question. Obviously, if you're trying to get through a 4 or 6 rounder, and you're with a prospect who's 5-0, 6-0, people call them learning fights. Are you actively trying to help the guys learn?
All I'm trying to do is not get hurt, and he's going to get the win anyway. So I'm not really trying to help him learn. I'm just trying to help to try to get it as little as possible and get out. That's what I try to do in a lot of my fights. That's what I try to do.
And do you think that helps them learn?
Well, yeah, it will, because in a lot of these fights, I had fighters say, I couldn't land a shot on you. Well, if I fight like that, then it will help them to get used to be able to land shots on people.
Sure, of course.
Because what I was trying to do was not get it and move my head. And I did get that quite a lot on quite a few fighters where they said to me, I couldn't hit you. Well, that will make things, that will sharpen them up. I don't know, it will help them, I would have thought,
I see where you're coming from.
You know where I'm coming
from. I also
from.
see the flip side, though, where if you go into a fight and you're negative, and then someone comes into them and they're going to give them a completely different style, then what they've done with you isn't necessarily going to help them if someone.
That's true.
If someone's got that same ambition.
That's true. But sometimes I went in with an attitude very, very negative, but most of the time I went in there to mess them around and grab them up and something, and that's a bit of experience for them to help them to be able to that can help a fighter's career, can't it? If I can play him around, and sometimes, you know,
help to pace a fight and that kind of stuff.
Sometimes, you know, Trish, on the blind side of the referee, if a person hit me, I'd grab his hand and the referee couldn't see, and that would make things hard for him to hit me. All that's got to be experienced to help him to become a better fighter, doing things like that, messing him around. Surely, in the sense of fighting people, if I can grab his arm and tie him up and surely that's going to give him a bit of experience to become a better fighter. Do you think that maybe?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, the more scenarios you experience.
Yeah, I used to do a lot.
Did Nobby teach you some of this stuff? Did he teach you some of the tricks?
Yeah, loads of the tricks.
Like what? So give me a couple of the tricks that you'd survive and mess people around.
That kind of thing. If a person to throw a right hand, grab the right hand and hold on to it. And another thing, when a person's trying to knock you out, I never thought of this. When a person's trying to knock you out, stay close to him. And if you stay close to him, he can't hit you. That was another one. He always taught you to slip the right hand and not get hit by big right hands. But as an amateur, I try to get out of the way of shots. Nobby says when you're fighting longer rounds, stay close to him. Because if you stay close to him, he can't hit you. That was another good.
Yeah, good lesson.
Good lesson.
Was Nobby a good coach? Obviously, he doesn't get the credit.
You know what?
People go to the headlines, losers limited, and think you're always in the away corner. But did he teach you a lot?
He taught you a lot, and you know another thing. I'm good friends. Remember Neville Brown?
Yeah.
Me and Neville are good friends, and we speak sometimes. He's a busy man, but we still find time to speak. I didn't know that Nobby looked after him for a while.
Right.
He said to me, Nobby looked after me for a while. He trained me for a while, and he took me into fights for a while, and he was the only fighter who taught me anything. When I went professional, nobody taught me anything. Nobby taught me a lot. He was a good manager. Let's not forget, Tracy, Nobby did have a British champion, Lloyd Hibbert.
Yeah.
And that was his fighter. And he won a British title. But I didn't know that Nobby also looked after Neville Brown. And Neville said he was a very good trainer and a good manager, and he taught me a lot. Nobody else taught me anything. That's what he said to me.
So were they good days then, up on the road or out on the road, up and down the country? And
absolutely fantastic days. You know, we were looked after very, very well. Where we'd go up to Scotland and we stay in digs together. Me, Peter, we always stayed together in digs, and it was fantastic times. You know, we stayed in a lot of hotels together. So you know, Teresa, if we went to a show, what didn't start till on the night, we'd be there by about 12 o'clock and just sit around and have a laugh and a joke till it was time to fight on the night. And we do that all the time. We never got to a show late. We was always like the first one there. You know what I mean? It was really good times. Times I'll never forget. I wouldn't want to do it again.
What do you think of Peter having 300 fights? Obviously, you got to 100, and that's a lot.
Absolutely fantastic. You know, Peter got to about 200 and odd, and I spoke to him on the phone. I says, Pete, what's the point in that? Why don't you just make it to the 300? I think he had about 7 fights to 300. He never had them with Nobby. He had them with Errol Johnson from Wednesbury. He said, you know what, I'm going to do it. I'm going to have to make it to 300. And that's just an absolutely fantastic... What he's done is...
It's mind-blowing, isn't it?
Absolutely fantastic. Christian Leah.
Yeah, Christian
Lake. He done the same. No disrespect to Christian Lake. I just want to say it's fantastic what he achieved. But you see, what it is with Peter, is who he fought in the 300 fights and how many rounds he fought in them 300 fights. He fought 10 rounders. He fought for a WBA Intercontinental champion against a very good fighter who said, out of everybody, he found Peter the hardest to hit. I saw that on the bloke who wrote Peter's book was showing me an article.
Okay, Chris Akers, yeah.
Chris, he showed me. He says, look at this. When I went to Peter's book launch, he was there. He says, look at this. And he fought a guy who was a big puncher. And that guy said that Peter was the hardest guy I found. It's hard to hit. I really found it hard to hit him, you know.
Yeah, great achievement, 300 fights.
Yeah. Great achievement of 300 fights, but what makes it different to anybody else who's had 300 fights is who he's fought in the 300 fights. And not just that, the rounds he's fought. And let's not forget he's won titles as well, hasn't he, Peter?
Well, you boxed. Yeah, he did. And he had 30 odd wins as well, 35 wins.
He had 2 double Midland champion, which was a hard title to win at one time. That was the equivalent to win a British title one time. No one bothers with it now, but that was a good title to have, a Midland title.
I wonder if we'll get any more 300 journeymen.
Yeah, that will never be done again. You know, Truth, I don't even know if you're gonna. I know one had it the other day. There was a journeyman the other day at the 100th fight.
Right.
I can't remember his name, but I don't know that you're gonna have that many people having that many anymore.
Would you recommend it as a career choice?
If I wasn't put in that situation, no. Maybe not. Maybe not. But then again, if you don't have journeymen, you're never gonna. How's everybody else's career gonna get on? I don't know. You know what I mean? I don't know what to say, but I went into that situation because I didn't want to leave my career how it was unfinished and not done what I wanted to do. I had to do what I had to do because I wanted to be a British champion. I really did, and I didn't fulfill that. So I thought, if I can't do that and I'm doing this and losing, I might as well get to 100. That's what I thought, and that's how I thought in my mind.
So a couple of things just to finish. So would you, if someone's professional career wasn't turning out as they'd hoped, on the A side, would you advise them to go to the B side and say, give this a go? Or would you say, pack it in?
No, I would say give that a go, but a lot of guys, if they got beaten and stuff, they normally do, don't they? They call it a day and think, I can't take this. You know what I mean? Even a guy who's good.
It's tough because a lot of their friends and family would never understand the role of a journeyman.
They'll never understand it. They don't understand it. I was speaking to there's a journeyman in Birmingham, and he's had 200 and odd fights, and I spoke to him yesterday, and he's upset because people at work has tell it, and he nearly got into fights. He's quite hot-headed, but he's a lovely guy. Jason Nesbitt.
Oh, Nesbitt, yeah.
I spoke to him not yesterday, the day before.
Yeah.
He's really upset by his career, and I tried to tell him, well, don't be as upset with your career because what you achieve is fantastic. He's upset because people at work are quite. He nearly got into fights with this. He's quite.
So like mocking him for losing fights.
Yeah. And I've told him, what you achieve is fantastic. I haven't achieved what you've achieved, and I get a lot of praise what I've achieved. Never mind with what you achieved. So don't make guys at work upset you and you being wanting to fight them because they're telling you you're crap. Don't do it. You'd be surprised with the amount of people that would be, impressed with what you've done there.
It's a tough road, though.
You know what I mean?
It's a tough road to please a lot of people that don't appreciate what you actually do.
The thing is, Tris, there is a lot of people what do understand, and if you do explain to people, be humble to people and explain to them, they say, oh, I understand. If you can do that, rather than be hot-headed, there is people that understand and will listen and say, oh, I didn't know it was like that. Guys I work with, I talk to them about it and they understand and they watch and...
Yeah, because the people on the street could never understand how you go and say, oh, I had a really easy fight and you've lost 60-54 or 40-36. You'll be like, how's that easy? You've lost every round.
Yeah, it's a thing where you have to watch to understand. You look at someone like Mark Ramsey, a perfect example. Did you ever see him fight? He took on Hatton. There wasn't anything in them fights, but he lost, but there was nothing in it. Don't make it crap. You need to... Sometimes you can't explain. You need to go on YouTube and watch a journeyman fight.
You need to know the game.
You need to know the game and understand. But that's probably the best way to understand is to watch a fight and someone can explain to you while you're watching it rather than talk. Because there are people that can be ignorant and they'll say, you're crap. Even my own little lad, he said to me, Dad, you're crap. You lost all these fights, my little lad. Like he said it to me, I just laughed.
Oh dear, enough's enough then. Brilliant, Arv. Well, look, it's been great, mate. Thank you very much for your time, mate. I really appreciate it.
It's a pleasure, Tris, you coming. You've been speaking to me for ages to come down and see me, and I really appreciate it. And it's so hard, with having family and that to sort things out. I wish you could have come sooner than you have, you know what I mean? Because,
mate, we've been had trouble with lockdown and all the rest of it. But it's great, mate. Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming down, and I really loved this. I did. It was nice.
Thanks for having me, mate.
Fantastic.